Now, next, I would like to invite to the podium our host here today, the former president of Real Madrid, Mr. Ramón Calderón.
Good evening. As a foreigner and being here today in a football evening, the first I have to do, is obliged to do, is show my respect and admiration and congratulations to what your national team has done and to his coach, Heimir. And it's really difficult to find something like that. It's the smallest country ever to send a team to that competition. And my suggestion is now you have 2 months to dream. It's free. And why not going every night to bed, and even the siesta, as we have in Spain, and see Aaron Gunnarsson lifting the cup. No one can take out of you, and what happens after that, who cares? I don't believe in miracles, but sometimes maybe you can kiss a frog and the prince can appear. So let's see that it can happen here. And let me now talk about football. Is our main purpose today. It can be said that without any doubt, football is the most popular sport in the world, mobilizes millions of people, and is followed and played in every corner of the planet. According to the statistics, there are around 250 million people that play football at least once a week, which means that 1 person out of 28 who live in the planet play and enjoy football. Sure, it helps that it's highly accessible because you need a small piece of land and minimal equipment. And we've seen images like this of children playing in poor countries and some kicking balls out of racks in different countries, unfortunately poor countries. It arouses passions, excitement, loyalties, and emotions. People who attend matches or watch them on TV are not only spectators, as in other kind of events. They are emotionally committed and engaged with one of the teams, which makes them to be part of the games. And the results are very important in their lives, as you know quite well, and affect them in a positive or a negative way, leading sometimes to some very undesirable, well, this is fans when they are really happy about what's happening, and unfortunately, this is the violence that is not desirable, and sometimes, unfortunately, we have it. And people, when they go to football, they see a kind of war in a civilized way. That's why someone has think that it's so popular in many senses, because if you consider that there are 2 teams or armies face to face in a battlefield, which is the pitch, with flags, crests, and anthems. They wear uniforms, and the citizens of a country or city that often lend his name to the team support, back, and encourage each side to win that particular battle. When the teams, as you see in that slide, get great victories or trophies, the players are welcome in a special place, fountain or square, in their cities. They did with the warriors in the ancient Rome or Greece. And the victories always strengthen the city or nation identity and pride. Leaders, as you can see there, show publicly, invisibly, their joy and pride in the victories. You can see them watching the final. I'm sure they were really happy because Real Madrid had scored 1 goal. And people may change husbands or wives or political parties, but never ever in their life they dare to change the football club they've been supporting from their childhood. And the stadiums have been transformed in really sets where the shows, the games are broadcast to more than 213 countries, the World Cup, with 41,000 hours of programming, and its amazing figure, a cumulative audience of 29 billion viewers over 25 matches. 75% of Latin Americans and 50% of Europeans are interested in watching football. Only Japan and US, the football is not the most watched sport in the world. When in July 2003, Real Madrid signed David Beckham from Man United, we introduced him to the media, and at 11 a.m., because that press conference was just broadcast to Asia. It was the time to make it in the main media, the main news. And 1,000 journalists attended that presentation. And the event had the world's second largest live TV audience ever in the world after Princess Diana's funeral. The UK newspaper, for example, set up a line of distraught British fans due to their disappointments as their idol was abandoning England and Man United. That day, Real Madrid sold 8,000 shirts at 80 euros each. And this is one of many that can be presented example of the repercussion football has in society. Just to compare with another sports, the last World Cup final was watched for around 1.5 billion people, 1,500 million people, and the Super Bowl in the United States just half, 750 million worldwide. And talking about the countries involved in the game, enough to say that in FIFA are represented 209 countries, more than in the United Nations, which has 193 members. All those data show that, for better or for worse, football has become part of the show business. All big companies are interested in being linked to that sport, and TV channels are paying every year more and more for getting the rights to broadcast all those competitions. And inside that very special world, there's a Spanish club called Real Madrid. I've been following all my life since I was a kid as a fan, and I was linked to him for 9 years, 6 as a director and 3 as the president. It's a club that was proclaimed the best club of the 20th century, which is the same to say the best club of the history, if you take into account that it was in 1904 when football was formally organized in the world with the foundation of FIFA. In our club, to win is an obligation, and our fans are very demanding, to some extent that, just as an anecdote, players like Zidane or Ronaldo have been booed when they didn't play as the fans expected. And perhaps, as I said this morning, the reason has a sociologically explanation, because 70% of the people who live in Madrid, including myself, were born in the city. And there's no identification then of the fans with there's not a sentiment of identification with the city or the region, like happens in many other countries or cities you can imagine. That's the reason some players find it strange when they appear for the same time and they get the disapproval of the fans. But perhaps that very strict behavior of the fans is one of the reasons the club has got by far more Champions League, as you know, than any other since the competition was set up in 1955, 10 until last year. That will be 11 in a few weeks. I hope, but it's not my intention to praise too much. My football club today is not for the victories or trophies, relevant players, money and so on. It's not the moment. But what I would like to stress is some aspects of the club not very well known that makes it very special and peculiar. It's the only big club in the world that doesn't belong to a company or a tycoon. The owner is a non-profit association with 93,000 members, which means that there is no paid-in capital, no shareholders, and no possibility of getting any money but through the proper revenues and income of the club. That structure obliges to be very careful in the way to administer those revenues and to control the expenses if we want to have a sustainable model. In the last years, has been highlighted that we are the richest club of the world, and I think it's unfair to emphasize it because it would have been much fair to say that it's perhaps the best well-managed club in the world, or one of the best managed club in the world. Just for you to know, this is what happened in 2000, was in a very difficult economic situation. Just the year when we won the eighth Champions League. As you can see, our position was really horrible. We were in so difficult situation that to survive, we had to rule out best players and also to sell some of the big ones we had. That wasn't what in our history we were doing. We were very lucky at the moment to be able to overcome that situation, selling some facilities, and that allowed us to pay the debts and get some cash. But we knew it was the last bullet we had, and therefore we started to look for a model that could transform the club into a successful, profitable, sustainable, and self-financed sport business organization, combining the success on the pitch with the creation of a strong international brand to grow the income and have economic stability. The idea was to create a virtuous circle. The increase of the income would allow the club to continue buying the world's best players, and those players will allow simultaneously to get titles, to attract the sponsors, titles and TV rights and ticketing. The wheel, therefore, could be spinning indefinitely. And we'll start to find and sign players who could support that strategy. In 4 years, we managed to have the players you can see there, perhaps the best of the world at the moment, in order to strengthen the brand. We saw that big athletes, great athletes that had won the most prestigious trophies were at the same time global icons with great media appeal. And that was very important for sponsors and for TV and media partners. And in order to make that strategy work, it was imperative that the club truly became sustainable and self-financed, to see the money spent on acquiring players and pay their salaries wouldn't exceed the incremental value created by the presence in the club. This is partly measured by an efficiency ratio established by the Football Club Organization that determines no club should spend in players more than 70% of their revenues. You see there, we managed to do it in the 47%, and we were increasing every year our income in the way that we could do, as I said, a club sustainable. And I think that having said that, what is most important, having built that sustainable model, is that we could also do something that few people know, is we call the soul of the club, is our foundation. And devoted mainly to help children to learn and practice the sport values: fair play, respect, solidarity, discipline, sacrifice, etc., all the values of sport. Doing it in more than 40 countries with more than 25,000 children, with academies not looking for talent, just for helping poor children, someone with physical problems in difficult conditions, and the idea is to give them the opportunity to have joy, hopes, and a better life, and also to provide with some of them with economic support to help them to have better conditions. And we also consider the practice of football in some of the academies as an instrument of social integration and organizing competition, mixing local and immigrants, teaching them how to overcome differences, having a common place to coexist. Our players are very involved in that philosophy, as they are role models in our society, knowing the great influence they have in their members. You can see in one of our trips to Colombia with the kids of the academy is Raúl there, in Salgado and Guti is the President Uribe there. We regularly go to visit ill children to the hospitals. We know how they really receive those visits. And I have many anecdotes of our players going to visit those ill children. But I can tell you, just to finish, a very touching one. I don't remember who was the player. I think it was the Brazilian Roberto Carlos. One day we received a phone call from a hospital where children with cancer are treated. They reported about one kid, Real Madrid fan, that was with a terminal illness and only 1 month of life expectancy. His dream had been always to have a signed shirt of his idol. I think, as I said, it was Roberto Carlos. And they wondered if it could be possible within that month to have that shirt. When the player knew it, and that's very common in all of them, he didn't accept that. He went to the hospital. He was with the kid for more than an hour. They took pictures. They played for all that time. Of course, he gave him his shirt signed and other gifts. Few days later, the general manager of the hospital called, saying that the improvement of the children had been so spectacular that the blood tests and other exams appeared to be the ones of someone sane. Doctors said it wasn't real, just a typical reaction of the body due to the excitement that sometimes happened and masks the effects of the illness. We knew afterwards that the child lived 1.5 years. So that player in some way, and as a kind of an earthly God, had the power to give that child more than 1 year of extra life. And now, if you see these pictures, and you see this one, I promise you that the ones I'm really more proud of are the last one. Thank you very much.